1 second just to set up the logo, because this is a different logo we're using.
Oh, this is the RPC one?
Yep. And I believe these are actually made by the original people who made SCPs. They ended up leaving due to
Right.
certain issues that happened in the SCP field, basically. There we go.
All right. So
This
registered.
is,
Yep.
I was just going to say, this is for everyone. This is RPC, and our first one, 070.
Registered Phenomena Code 070. Object Class Omega Red. Hazard Types pending review. Containment protocols. The business owners of fast food establishments within the Burger King brand have been instructed to check their children play areas for abnormal changes in internal structure. This is to be done at least twice a week. If anomalous behavior is found, it is to be reported to the authorities, and MST Vector-1 tunnel vision is to be deployed to the location. They are the partially deconstruct the RPC-070 instance in order to neutralize the anomalous effect. Afterwards, it can then be reconstructed. In case of manifestation, staff should continue to check for structural changes even after a neutralization. Description: RPC-070 is a spatial anomaly affecting the fast food restaurant chain Burger King, specifically establishments with a particular type of indoor play area. These play areas consist of a series of colorful tubes, slides, ladders, and other components combined in a maze-like structure meant to serve as entertainment for customers' children. There is no discernible pattern as to which RPC-070 will appear. RPC-070 only manifests once every several months or years. RPC-070 has never been documented affecting more than a single establishment at once. After manifestation, an RPC-070 affected play area will undergo two distinct changes. The first stage lasts 25 to 30 days. It begins with the internal structure increasing in size vertically and horizontally. The exterior of the play area does not change in size or appearance. The increase in size manifests as a slow stretching and morphing of the plastic components within the structure. The creation of rooms and tunnels of varying shapes, sizes, and colors has been observed. They often contain structures reminiscent of a children's jungle gym, such as monkey bars, rope swings, and net floors. After approximately 10 days, the internal structure will have reached a size of roughly 60 cubic meters. Newly formed rooms and tunnels will have begun to take on irregular forms or housing anomalies contents. Some recorded examples include the following: a massive elliptical room with 500 branching tunnels, each beginning with a circular opening. A pink tube traveling in one direction for 50 meters without any intersection. A room with walls completely covered in spikes. The size of these spikes ranged from a few centimeters to half a meter. The spikes were made of dull plastic. An orange circular tunnel with a hemisphere window on one side. Through the window, an extremely large room was visible. In the corner, the figure of a humanoid entity was able to be seen. It was in a crouched position, its arms wrapped around its head. A rectangular purple tunnel leading to the opening of what appears to be an empty elevator shaft. The shaft traveled up and down, neither the top or bottom visible. An object was dropped in. After a few minutes, the object reappeared, falling from the upward part of the shaft. It continued falling, but did not reappear a second time. A turquoise oval-shaped tunnel that begins to shrink toward one end until it can no longer be traveled through, ending with a small hole. Looking through this hole, flashing lights of red, blue, and green were visible. Incoherent whispers became audible at close distances to the end of the tube. By the end of Stage 1, the structure will have reached a size of approximately 3 cubic kilometers. Most of the structure will be far enough from the entrance to be in complete darkness. The beginning of Stage 2 is marked by the appearance of RPC-070A instances, which are quadrupedal humanoid entities with inverted spines and torsos.
What the fuck?
The creatures have human-like heads, rotated 180 degrees and lacking any nasal organs.
Wouldn't 180 degree? No, wait, the 360 that goes all the way around.
Yeah, 180 is only half. The entities emerge through small crevices in the tunnels. They have sharp claws which allow them to obtain a firm grip on the walls. Because of this, 070-A instances are extremely agile, able to travel long distances and around corners in the structure much faster than a human could. 070-A instances survive by consuming the children that enter RPC-070 affected by play areas. In order to remain hidden from any onlooking parents or restaurant staff, the entities remain in the area of darkness. Children naturally avoid these dark areas, often forcing 070-A instances to hide behind corners and quickly capture passing targets, taking them away from any potential witnesses. After acquiring a child, a 070-A instance will cover the child's mouth in order to muffle any screams until it has traveled deep enough into the structure as to not be heard by outsiders. Once far enough, the entity will consume the child. It first snaps the child's neck in order to paralyze it, then beginning to devour chunks of flesh. Once the skin and muscle tissue have been completely consumed, the entity will leave the carcass and return to capture a new child.
But you're
Zero
still
seven
using you're still leaving so much stuff you can use. Come on now, monster.
070-A instances are able to manipulate the environment of the RPC-070 structure. They do this by pressing one hand flat against the surface. Said surface will then slowly change in shape over the course of several minutes. This ability is often used to create rooms to lure, trap, and/or kill prey. Complex uses of this ability can take up to several hours. The following are some recorded examples of structures created through this manipulation. A blue slide that becomes steeper until it reaches a vertical drop. This drop was at least 300 meters in height. 3 corpses were found at the bottom. A trapdoor in the floor of a tunnel with a small space below it. A 070-A instance would wait inside this space. Once a child was above, the entity would open the trapdoor and pull the child in. This method was effective enough to be feasible in areas relatively close to entrances. A small room with a crude drawing of a smiling person on the wall. There was a single doorway into the room with a plastic cover that could be slid up and down over the door. A 070-A instance would wait around the corner of the room until a child entered before sliding down the cover. An attempt to deconstruct an RPC-070 instance in order to study its anomalous behavior instantly neutralized the anomaly. The structure returned to its state prior to any anomalous expansion. Entities within the expanded portions of the structure, including 070-A instances and several children, disappeared. It is unknown what happened to the entities and children involved. Addendum. On June 16, 2019, an RPC-070 test was approved in which an RPC-070 affected play area was isolated and allowed to enter its second stage. Infrared cameras and audio recording devices were placed within the structure for remote surveillance. 50 070-A instances manifested, designated A-1 through A-50, based on order of initial manifestation. It was found that without human children entering the structure, the 070-A instances became cannibalistic. They began to viciously attack one another in order to obtain necessary sustenance. An event transcript is available below. Event log 070-1. Date: June 19th, 2019. Experiment lead, Dr. Reichard. Right, yeah, Reichard. I think that's how you do it. Forward. All entrances to the structure were sealed prior to any 070-A manifestations. All surveillance devices were unnoticed by the entities for the duration of the experiment. Begin log. The 50 070-A instances have manifested and are pacing through the complex, not interacting with each other. The entities begin to appear agitated as they cannot find any human prey within the structure. At this point, they gradually become more aggressive until the... Okay, no, never mind, you're good. Back to that. The entities begin to appear agitated as they cannot find any human prey within the structure. At this point, they gradually become more aggressive until the entities are attacking one another directly. A-35 approaches A-12 from behind. A-35 quickly leaps in front of A-12 before decapitating it and consuming the reanimated corpse, or the remaining corpse. This is the first death of the experiment. There were no other 070-A instances within the area. The RPC-070 structure enters a chaotic state in which any direct interaction between 070-A instances leads to the death of at least one of the involved entities. Over the following 2 hours, 16 more 070-A instances die. The remaining 33 are capable of avoiding direct interaction, making it increasingly rare for any entity to consume another through direct attack methods. Use of elaborate traps such as false floors and hidden doors become frequent. After 4 hours, 19 more entities are killed. The remaining 14 entities are as follows: A-1, A-3, A-6, A-15, A-17, A-22, A-26, A-35, A-36, A-37, A-42, A-44, A-47, and A-50. A-22 is pacing through a long tunnel as 3 A-0A instances, A-1, A-15, and A-42, appear from behind a corner 5 meters ahead. The 3 entities had previously formed a cooperative hunting group and had killed 4 other 070-A instances. A-22 quickly turns and runs from the group. A-22 quickly makes a left turn as the other entities stumble through the narrow tunnel. A-22 leads them toward a large structure supported by 4 metal beams. A-22 had constructed this structure 2 hours prior. A-22 jumps into a square opening on the structure, crawling through a small tube. The 3 other 070-A instances followed A-22 into entering into a small room. A-22 is within a secondary room overseeing the other and activates a lever. The walls of the room containing the group begin to compress inward. They rub against the floor, creating an extremely sharp sound. The walls collide, crushing the 3 070-A instances. A-22 consumes their corpses over the next hour. During this time, and in another section of the complex, A-26 is atop a large pillar surveying 3 intersecting tunnels made of transparent plastic. It has been atop the pillar for nearly the entirety of the experiment, only descending when an unsuspecting 070-A instance is below. A-26 spots A-17 traveling through one of the tunnels. A-26 prepares to drop from the pillar, but A-17 suddenly stops traveling through the tunnel. A-26 ducks down, attempting not to be seen by A-17. After 20 seconds, A-17 slowly approaches the pillar. It then repeatedly lashes at the pillar until it collapses. A-26 dies on impact with the floor, and A-17 consumes the body. A-22 has now finished consuming the corpses of A-1, A-15, and A-42. A-22 leaves its structure and travels through the complex after approximately 30 minutes. It finds a massive vertical drop in the floor of a tunnel. A-22 begins to construct a false floor, presumably planning to lure another 070-A instance over the hole. As A-22 begins to create a weak panel to place over top the hole, A-36 emerges from a false wall. A-36 had previously constructed the vertical drop, waiting for 070-A instances to attempt to build a trap with it. The walls of the drop were made with an extremely slippery material so that the entities could not grip them and climb out. A-36 lunges at A-22 from behind, but A-22 ducks, leading A-36 to land into the drop. A-36 screeches and claws violently at the walls. A thud is heard when A-36 hits the bottom. A-50 comes across the structure A-22 had built and sees A-47 scavenging through the bones of A-1, A-15, and A-42. A-47 is scrawny, having eaten very little over the experiment so far. A-50 is able to easily pin A-47 to the ground and snap its neck. A-50 rests within the construct as it consumes A-47. In the opposite side of the complex, A-17 stalks A-3 as it wanders from random intersections. Eventually, A-3 reaches the end of a long tunnel. A-3 turns around and A-17 is waiting at the entrance to said tunnel. A-17 begins to walk into the tunnel, dragging its claws against the wall in an intimidating fashion. Just as A-17 is about to attack A-3, A-6 appears from behind and slices A-17's legs, amputating both of them. A-6 had been silently following A-17 for several hours. A-6 begins to devour A-17, and A-3 attempts to escape without moving its head away from consuming flesh. A-6 slashes A-3 in the throat, causing blood to pour into the floor. A-3 stumbles out from the tunnel, but dies of blood loss shortly after. A-6 consumes both bodies and then leaves the location to create a trap elsewhere. After approximately 20 minutes of travel, A-37 enters into a massive torus-shaped tunnel. A partially consumed body, A-44, is visible 10 meters ahead. A-37 approaches the corpse and begins to consume its flesh before A-6 drops from a hatch in the ceiling. A-37 hesitates, allowing A-6 to quickly slice through A-35's back. A-6 begins to consume A-35 while it is still alive. A-37 drags its left hand and presses it against the ground. A crease begins to manifest, forming a square tile which begins to sink into the floor. After several seconds, A-37, A-6, and the partially consumed body fell into the hole, eventually exiting into a lower section of the structure. A-22 is in the lower area and witnesses the 070A instances land, bursting on impact. A-22 collects the various chunks of bodily matter and carries them to the structure it had built previously. A-35 is visible following A-22 from behind. At this point, the only living 070-A instances are A-22, A-50, and A-35. A-22 approaches the structure and notices A-50 within it. A-22 quietly travels toward a small latch on the underside. It opens the latch before crawling inside. A-35 follows and silently closes the latch from the inside, careful not to alert A-22 of its presence. As A-22 is about to raise the switch, which would activate the crushing machine and kill A-50, A-35 pushes A-22 over a ledge and into the pit with A-50. A-35 then lifts the switch. The walls of the pit begin to move inward. A-22 attempts to use the femur bone of A-42's carcass to jam the machine by shoving it into the crevice between the wall and floor. The wall begins to stop moving and A-22 appears relieved before A-50 attacks from behind, completely removing A-22's left leg. A-22 pulls the femur bone out from the wall, winding it back before hurling it at A-50. The bone smashes to the side of A-50's head, obliterating its skull. A-50's body becomes limp and falls to the floor. A-35 deactivates the crushing machine and jumps into the pit. A-35 grips A-22's remaining leg and pins A-22 against the wall. A-35 swings its arm, but A-22 swerves its head, avoiding the attack. A-22 presses its hand against the floor. The ground begins to melt. A-35 and A-22 fall through and land at the base. A-22 appears to have been knocked unconscious by the fall. A-35 regains its balance and drags A-22 towards one of the four metal supports. A-35 takes a piece of sharp metal debris and uses it to amputate A-22's right leg. A-22 begins to regain consciousness, but appears dazed and unaware. A-35 places the piece of metal against A-22's neck and begins to slowly slice the flesh. A-22 reflexively jolts backwards, smashing against the support beam. It buckles, destabilizing the structure. Pieces of plastic and a thick dust fill the area as the entire structure collapses onto A-22 and A-35. After 30 seconds, the rubble becomes still. 3 hours following this, all entities within the structure are presumed dead, and the test is concluded. End log. Closing statement. The anomaly was neutralized by removing a sheet of plastic from one of the outside tubes shortly after the affected restaurant was allowed to resume normal activity.
What the fuck?
Yes.
I missed that entire thing. I'm sorry. I had to deal with a phone call that I wish
No,
I hadn't answered.
No, you're good. That was the apparently. So, did you hear like what this was like the base value of what it is?
Some people were calling it Fortnite.
Not really. So
It sounded like just from the ending part, it reminded me of Battle Royale, like the movie, I should say, in the manga.
Sort of, yeah. But so what this is basically there's apparently a spatial anomaly that occurs inside some Burger King like those little like tube things you can crawl through, like little kid mazes. And they get bigger on the inside than they do on the outside, and they can get up to like kilometers large. And what I was reading was apparently they did a test with one of them, and I guess there are these creatures that live in there and lure children to like their deaths and eat them.
Yeah,
So,
I heard that part.
Okay, so basically what the Foundation did, or what the Phenomena Code or whatever it is, whatever they did, the RPC, they cut it off from everything, so they didn't give them food, and they wanted to see what would happen, and they started like killing each other, and it got to the point where it was like Battle Royale, where they were like setting traps and shit for each other, and that was the test that I was reading.
That's fucking beautiful. I love it. Oh, how much more do you have to download? We might be able to have one more. Unless you're
I think we can stand to do one more.
Okay. Do you want to do the Mole Man, or do you want me to find another one?
It's up to you.
See, we have the Mole Man. Let me see if we have any other really funny ones. So we have a couple of joke ones we can end with. Why are there so many Ronald Reagan ones?
I don't know.
Let's see. There's one. There's an SCPJ called Just a Small Town Girl. There's one called The Plague Fellow. Dr. Jello's driving skills. Which one would you like?
Fuck it, Mole Man.
Okay. I need to also know why there's so many Ronald Reagan ones.